Hey Gearheads, and welcome to GT Garage Talk, a discussion about all things automotive. I am your host Corey, and this week we are closing out the second full season of the GT Garage Talk podcast. I cannot believe it has been 2 full years. Thank you to each and every one of you listening. We've got a special show in store for you today. I'm so excited I can't even talk. We have a special guest joining us today in Carl Malik. He writes for Car Revs Daily, among other different things. He's up in the Michigan area, so he is in the epicenter of American vehicle technology. So we will kind of get a behind-the-scenes scoop into his life, what got him into automotive. He even just, casually drops the fact that a Rolls Royce was dropped off at his house for review. No big deal. It's just how he rolls. So without further ado, we will welcome on Carl Malik. All right, Gearheads, I have the pleasure of sitting down this afternoon, I guess as I'm recording this afternoon, I don't know when you're listening this, with Carl Malik. Carl, nice to have you.
And thank you. So thank you for letting me join you today.
Absolutely. So I first and foremost thank you. You reached out to me, said you are a longtime listener and fellow car reviewer enthusiast. So it was a great connection to be able to bring you on board.
Yes, and thank you for that.
Yeah, so why don't you give the listeners just kind of a quick snippet of what it is that you do, where you write for, and we'll remind them again at the end. But where can our listeners find what you do?
Yes, I am a contributor for torquenews.com. On that particular website, I cover the electric vehicle side of the coin on both the Ford and GM side.
Okay.
And then the bulk of my work, you can find me over at carrevsdaily.com. I serve as both an editor and the lead Michigan region person for that particular website.
So, given those two outlets, I know just from being Facebook friends with you that you get quite a collection of different vehicles rolling through your driveway on a regular basis, do you not?
Yes.
So, you said Torque News, you really kind of lean into the EV side of things. I'm going to steal one of my random misfire questions from later on in the episode. What are your thoughts leaning EV, internal combustion, and the differences between the two?
Well, that's kind of a tough question to answer. I mean, as far as the EV side of it's concerned, I do like some of the potential that exists in the technology. My office is actually down the road from GM Tech Center here in
Nice.
Sterling Heights. So you can imagine at least once a week I see a Hummer EV or two out on final shakedown runs. There is some potential. I don't see it as quite ready for mainstream just yet, mainly because of pricing as well as range for some of the lingering EVs that are out there. I know a lot of them these days are in the 200, 300
Right.
mile range, but still, if you're looking the road trip with an EV, we have a lot of charging stations here in the East Coast, a lot of charging stations as well in the West Coast. But especially when you get to the middle of the country, say, Nevada, New Mexico, or whatnot,
Or Texas,
there's
you
really
don't have to
nothing
tell
there yet.
me. Like, I took one from here in East Texas up to Amarillo in a
Hmm.
gas powered car. It's supposed to take about 7 hours. In a Mach E, which is what I drove, according to Ford, it was supposed to take, what was it, 10 hours. It ended up taking 14. So yeah, you
Right.
don't have to tell me about charging stations and road trips. I am well versed in all the unfortunate side effects of it.
Yeah, that said, though, I do think that where we're at currently, we are actually in a good position for, say, other EV applications, like, say, electric powered motorcycles, for
Oh
example.
yeah.
I'm actually in the process of getting everything together to purchase one of those. And, for a motorcycle buyer that may be in a big city or whatnot, I think we're actually in a good position, for those particular vehicles as far as where we're at right now in terms of charging.
Yeah, I think that the application for and two wheels is much more practical than the application for four wheels because the added weight of the batteries that are big enough to move, it's kind of this, the bigger the battery, the more it weighs, the more it weighs, the
Right.
bigger the battery. And it gets into this crazy cycle of how big's too big. And, you mentioned the Hummer EV. I'm yet to see one of those in person. Hopefully, when you and I are at the Chicago Auto Show, I've already seen it's on the list of attendees. Looking forward to that. But yeah, that thing weighs what, 9,000 pounds, something just ridiculously
Yeah, a
insane.
tick over a 9,000 pound curb weight.
like, you know, I, here in East Texas, we see all these load zone bridges and stuff, and I've never in my life thought a vehicle that I would be driving would make me question whether or not I could cross a bridge. Driving a Hummer EV might change how I approach some of these small East Texas roads around here for sure.
Right.
So, what have you gotten to drive in the EV realm?
Uh, I was recently in a Mazda MX-30. That one actually came during the week that I got married to my lovely wife, Emily.
Well, congratulations. That was very recent, wasn't it?
Yes, it was actually back in November of 2021.
Okay. Well, congrats on the nuptials. What were your thoughts, and maybe more importantly, what were her thoughts on the Mazda EV?
Well, I mean, she certainly liked how stylish it was, and for me, the style argument won me over too. It is a very stylish crossover, but both of us, you know, range.
Yeah.
We both had a consensus that the range on it was non-existent. I mean, going around downtown to some of our related errands to the wedding, you really had to think about range in that thing.
Yeah.
Will I have enough range to make it to downtown Rochester and back along with the church and some of the other things?
So, correct me if I'm wrong because you got to spend time in it. I've yet to see one in person. Those have what, like 100 miles of EV range, and that's it?
100. That's it.
I don't think y'all are the only ones panning that vehicle for that reason. It would make perfect sense if it were a plug-in hybrid with 100 miles of range. That would be a slam dunk. But
Yes.
solely an EV with 100, yeah, you were purely looking at urbanites who never leave the city limits with a vehicle like that.
Yes, and I mean that's why MX-30 is limited to the California market right now, solely because of the range. But if you're in California and say San Francisco or Los Angeles, you could, in theory, stretch that 100 miles out for the entire day at a charging station and just charge it home at night. But anything beyond that, you either have to use the loaner program that Mazda has, or have a gasoline powered vehicle in your driveway to go farther than that 100 miles.
So what's their loaner program?
Essentially, what that loaner program is, I know Mazda has detailed in some of their press releases in the past, but essentially, if you need to go, say, beyond that range, you can actually swap the MX-30 for a gasoline powered Mazda, like say a CX-50, a CX 30, something like that. Take it with
Interesting.
you on your trip, and then when you come back, you bring that gasoline powered vehicle back, and then you get the MX-30 returned to you.
That's an interesting solution to a problem that may or may not need to exist, depending on how you look at it. You say it's relegated to the California market, which leads me to
Yes.
believe it's a compliance vehicle, pure and simple.
Hmm.
Like California is vastly cracking down on emissions and what cars can be sold there. It's because of California making the 2035 deadline that all the automakers nationwide are saying, "Oh, we're going all EV by 2035." So it's a very interesting thing where kind of California is directing the rest of the U.S. market and how it goes just because of the buying power that state has.
Yes. Yes, and not just automobiles too. If you look at some of the other bits of that particular legislation, they're also targeting other types of powered contraptions like lawn mowers, other small engine things. You look in that, they are targeting that as well, and they're trying to make sales of those in that state all electric too.
So that one wouldn't be too hard to sell for me. I already have a battery powered mower just because I don't have an incredibly large lawn. Neither my wife nor I have a pickup truck with a bed, and I didn't really want to be carrying gasoline inside a
Right.
vehicle to and from a gas station. So I was like, we'll just get battery power. And for the most part, battery powers has not let me down, but my goodness, this past summer has been the rainiest summer we have ever had here in East Texas. And my grass just ate it up, soaked it up, and kept growing. It was a jungle every single week to the point I have a 5 kilowatt hour battery and two 2.5 kilowatt hour batteries, and I would kill all three of them on my front yard alone when normally I can do my entire yard on just the 5 kilowatt hour. So I don't know if
Yeah,
that's battery degradation or what, but it was killing me this year.
yeah. Here in Michigan, it was kind of the opposite problem. We didn't have as much rain as you guys, but it was a matter of keeping the lawns watered for us. There were days where we went long periods without rain, and you had to decide: do I let the grass go brown or do I,
Well, that's that's a
something like that?
typical summer here in Texas. I don't know what was going on. First, we had Snowmageddon last year, which was like a 1 in 100 year type storm, and I have never seen that much snow in my memorable life. I think I went to Colorado when I was 3 years old, but I can't
Mhm.
remember anything other than it was cold. But yeah, Snowmageddon last year was no joke. As you and I are sitting down to record this, I'm looking at the forecast 2 days from now where we have snow in the forecast again, and I'm like, oh please, no. But then part of me, I just had a Ford Bronco delivered for a week long test that I'm like,
Mhm.
well, if we did get Snowmageddon again, that wouldn't be the worst thing. I'd just go out and have fun in the Bronco. So,
Yeah. Or you can make the trip here in Michigan because it's ironic you bring up Snowmageddon because and not even 24 hours from now, we're gonna get clobbered with a lot of snow. They were saying 8 to 10 inches here in my slice of the state.
no, thank you. No. I was born and raised in Texas. I was built for heat and humidity. This cold stuff doesn't work for me, and I got my fill of it last year. So you can keep
Uh,
it up there, Carl. I'm good. So let's talk a little bit about you are in automotive media.
mhm.
What got you here? What path led you into automotive media?
It's kind of a very interesting story with that. I got my first exposure in the automotive media world literally right after I finished community college. I was driving along one day, and this was right around the time the Volkswagen Rutan was under development. And I sent that picture in to Brenda Pretty. It got big, and of course, Brenda's no longer active in the automotive
Right.
spy photography world these days. But from that point on, it just blossomed. And after a few years of just focusing on the photography side of it, I switched to the writing side of it, and I joined Car Revs Daily, I want to say in 2016, 2015. And even that was kind of by accident. I was running my own website at the time, and Tom Burkhart, the kind gentleman that runs that site, he actually was lectured me on Facebook for spamming because back in those days, I had no idea,
Right.
proper marketing. I was just freewheeling it. And, I took my comeuppance on that. And then a few months later, he was actually looking for a writer. And I just reached out to him and said, hey, no, I'm willing to do it. I mean, I know you're still getting things off the ground with the site a little bit, but that's fine. I'll do it. It's been a fun ride ever since.
Well, that's awesome. I have to ask, are there any particular vehicles in your history that have really spurred that on? You mentioned it really started with catching a spy shot of a rebadged Chrysler to VW. But
Mhm.
was there always a love of cars there, or was it, like you said, something you just kind of fell into?
There's always been a love of cars. In my family, I grew up in a GM family. My brother is currently an engineer for General Motors, and
Nice.
my dad and my uncle worked in the plants for I want to say for several decades. My dad retired after a 30 plus year career at GM in the plants, but there's always been that love of automobiles. I remember, and my brother, I'm sure he'll remember this too, when we were little, my mother had an electric T type. And at this point, the headliner was sagging a little bit, and we were 4 or 5 year old kids. So we had fun poking holes in it with our dinosaur toys.
Yeah, yeah. Sagging headliners. Fortunately, cars have gotten so good here lately that all those issues of the 70s, 80s, and early 90s are disappearing in modern cars. It's
Mhm.
kind of crazy to think just how good even a cheap $20,000 car is nowadays. They're It's just
Yes.
solid.
Yes, I mean, compared to say my first car, I had a 2001 Malibu, and you look at what was considered quality in that versus what we have in the Malibu now, it's a giant leap. I mean, especially in terms of design. I mean, the one thing that always got me on those older Malibus, especially the LS ones, you had a strip of wood trim that would run along the dash, but that was it. So you had an island of wood that was largely in a sea of cheap plastic
Yep.
versus what we have now, where the design is more unified and everything is just leaps and bounds above what we saw in those models back then.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up the Malibu. So, a couple of weeks back, I had an issue on or a podcast episode about what's in a name, and me and the vehicle nanny, who is a longtime General Motors employee as well, we talked about all these resurrected names, and we didn't even bring up the Malibu. If you look back in the 60s, that was such an iconic performance
Right.
minded vehicle, and now it's just synonymous with a family Chevy car. And
Hmm.
I got excited, you know, given that it already was living under the reputation of a family car and nothing more, when the current generation was teased, because I don't know about you, but to me, it almost looked like the Audi RS7. Just that swooping back, that kind of seamless transition from back window to tail that made it almost look like a hatch.
Yes.
It just looks so sleek and slippery. And I thought Chevy did an amazing job with that. And it's a shame that it really didn't translate into too much else the same way, because same design themes are in the Equinox. And personally, I don't think it translates quite as well to an SUV. And I think the Malibu was like the pinnacle of Chevy's current design language.
I agree. I mean, when I bought my current car in 2013, I was at that point where it's like, okay, all that's here is a Buick Verano Turbo. At the time, Chevy didn't really have anything design wise that stuck out, at least to me. And you look at what's going on in design now, and I mean, I'm going to be in the market again at some point, and I'm having that same feeling again. You look at what's non-truck or non like big SUV, because those are on my price range. But you look at like say compact CUVs, mid-size CUVs, there's just no design distinction there. It all looks bland.
Yeah.
I hate to say it.
And that's probably really tough for you to say, especially with as ingrained as your family has been with the brand. But uh, you and I both know how hardcore Mary Barra and the team over at General Motors are leaning into the EV future, perhaps at the detriment of their non EV present. and it's almost like they're just letting everything else just kind of wither to out there to die, and perhaps that's just the way of things.
Right, right. Because I mean, if you look at GM's recent moves, they are trying to bulk up their electric vehicle presence. They recently announced a pretty big investment here in this area for Lansing Delta, and then as well as Orion Township assembly plant. That latter plant that does hold some good family history with me. I remember when I was a kid, this was back when the UAW was a completely different entity.
Right.
There would be times where we would have tours of the Orion plant. And then after those tours, especially during the summertime, we'd have the Union Picnic. The thing is, they're trying to bulk up, their EV presence, but at the same time, not everyone's going to buy an EV.
Right.
There's going to be people that would still want the established convenience of, say, a traditional ICE powered vehicle. And it's like you said, they are letting some of those wither away. Now, I can't say all of them because you look at the Corvette as well
Right.
as what you have with the Suburban right now, those are probably the main exceptions, at least in my eyes, to that withering effect that you mentioned a little earlier.
Yeah, you got to keep the cash cows happy, basically. And with Suburban being the longest running nameplate in automotive history, and the fact that it is the best selling full size SUV, you can't let that one go.
Mm-hmm.
Corvette is the icon of American sports car anything, so you can't let that one go. Yeah, but the Camaro, it should be celebrating a major anniversary right now. We're in 2022. It should be celebrating 55 years of life, and
And yet, there's nothing.
I've heard nary a peep. So 10 years ago, I had a 45th anniversary SS, which, General Motors was always critiqued for basically just doing a sticker package for their anniversary models. But I thought it was a really cool car. It had silver stripes on a black car and then that red accent for the 45. But
Mm-hmm.
here we are. We just last week, as you and I sit to record this, got announced the anniversary edition for the Corvette that for 2023
Mm-hmm.
is celebrating 70 years. So I don't know, like, were they just so focused on electrification that they forgot that there were some big birthdays going on? It's like, oops,
Yeah.
oh, we got you a present. We got you a present. Here, look what we got.
Yeah, we remembered, we swear.
So, yeah, I'll probably fall out of my seat if I see something for 55th anniversary Camaro, just
Over
because,
under minus 270 on
yeah.
that.
And, the 70th anniversary Corvette, I wouldn't mind getting to sample one of those. So, yeah, very nice. I will say, what is interesting to me, I'll go ahead and I've already kind of teased it on my Facebook page, but I think manufacturers have completely leaped over the necessary transitional period to get the masses used to electrification, and that's plug-in hybrid. I
Mhm.
just spent a week with an Escape plug-in hybrid, and I am sold on that being the next step, but hardly anybody's doing them. So Ford Motor Company is, Jeep
Yep.
is, so Stellantis, you've got the Chrysler Pacifica, I believe, is a plug-in hybrid as well. There are a handful of vehicles out there that are plug-in hybrid, but that's what we should be going all in on right now.
I 100% agree because a lot of people, when you look at the types of green vehicles that are out there, hybrid, plug-in hybrid, and then EV, you know, a lot of people don't realize that the plug-in side of it is actually that perfect middle ground. And
Yeah.
it can also be a good transition point to someone that would want to eventually go to a full EV. Because if you look at the plug-in, it's the perfect balance of compromise and range to an extent. You have the ability to go distances on electricity, but if you need that long distance, no problem. You have a gas engine still that can help you out there. It's not like a hybrid where it's mainly the gas engine doing it. And it's not like EV where if you don't have something with a lot of range, like say recent Hyundai EVs or even GM's growing fleet of Ultium ones,
Mhm.
you're left high and dry.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the day they delivered that Escape to me, I hit the road for Houston, which I joke here in Texas, we don't measure by miles, we measure by hours. It's a 4 hour drive from here.
Mm,
And to be able to do that in a vehicle that earlier in that day, like I ran and took my son to my parents' house and back and did a few errands completely on electricity, didn't use a drop of gas whatsoever. And then in the same vehicle, I was able to drive all the way to Houston without stopping once for fuel, for electricity, for anything. And I'm like, how are more manufacturers not leaning into this? This is the answer. It's the gateway drug to get
yes.
people hooked on not stopping at the gas station.
Yes, and on the subject of range, I actually have a quick story about that.
Okay.
Years ago, I had an Ionic EV
Okay.
for a review period, and of course, this was during the time when we had heavy construction on I-75 going towards the Ohio border, and the range on an Ionic EV back then was 120 some miles. But the thing was, I thought, okay, I can just make it down there, plug in and no problem. It was a lot harder than you think. I had to stop and charge at a Monroe Community College, and my
Nice.
wife will never let me hear the end of it because apparently Monroe Community College they have a potter's field. So she was saying that I was getting electricity from the ectoplasm and all the ghosts that were there. So after that little adventure, we went to her grandpa's house, and he was so afraid of the thing because he never saw an EV in his life.
Right.
He wouldn't let me charge in his house. So I had to go to Toledo, charge at the University of Toledo just to get enough energy to make the trip back over the border.
Wow.
Mind you, I had to miss the rest of the dinner. And then I had to do one final quick charge at a 7-Eleven in Woodhaven
Yeah.
just to get the range to make it back home. And if you had a plug-in hybrid, you wouldn't have that
Right.
anxiety. You would have, at least a good backup system in the gas engine to help get you home. So then you can plug it in and charge for the night, then be able to use the electric side of it like you would normally. It's an overlooked thing and drives me crazy sometimes. With so much focus on EVs and even recent focus on the fuel cell side of it. If you're Hyundai,
Right.
it's like where's the attention on plug-in? Why not promote that first, then EVs?
Yeah, like just get people hooked on what it's like. Just give them a little taste. It's like, okay, here's what an electrified life would look like, because
Hmm.
there are studies out there that 30 miles should be enough for the average American's commute. I understand that doesn't apply to everyone. I spent 12 years in analytics. I know means and all of that. But if for us, the highest I ever saw on that Escape plug-in hybrid was 38 miles of EV range. That was more than enough when I actually had a commute for me to do everything that I needed to do, even run errands, get groceries on the way home on pure electricity. So 5 days of the week, I'm not using a drop of gas. And then on the weekend, we can load up, drive 2 hours to Dallas, and go do something fun in the city and use gasoline and not have to worry about, oh, we're taking this car or that car or any sacrifices like that.
Right.
It blows my mind that more manufacturers are not leaning in on this. And it has me so excited for the 2022 Jeep Grand Cherokee, not the L, because
Right.
the two row Grand Cherokee is coming out with a 4xe option. And I'm like, that just seems like the perfect amount of comfort, luxury, efficiency, and off roadiness. Because I would want the Trailhawk version. It's
Mhm.
like almost the perfect vehicle for me right now in my mind. And I'm like, man, more manufacturers need to jump on this bandwagon.
Yeah, and you brought up the Jeep because I think Stellantis is actually one of the few automakers I've seen that is actually projecting this type of message. If you look at what they're going to do with Jeep down the line,
Mm-hmm.
they're focusing on plugins first,
Yep.
and you see that with the Wrangler plug-in and the Grand Cherokee plug-in. It's that good gateway for those people because if you try to give a pure EV Wrangler, good luck explaining to
Yeah.
or even convincing Wrangler people, hey, here's a Wrangler EV. Buy this, please.
Yes.
It's good to have that a transition step where it's a plug-in where it's like, yes, you have electricity, but if you get far, far away from a charging station, you still have a gas engine to help you.
Yeah. Jeep knows their customer base very well, and I think they even eased into the 4xe very nicely because for the longest time we had the Pentastar V6, and then they introduced the 2-liter 4-cylinder, which
Hmm.
a little torque monster for what it is, and that is the same engine that is in the 4xe hybrid system. So first, all right, we're taking away the Pentastar, but you can still order one. You still get the V6 if you want it, but we're going to give you this little 4-cylinder. It's more economical. It's got a lot of torque. You'll like it. You'll like it. Sales on those picked up, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, we're going to put some electricity behind it and make it even better." And I've sampled a 4xe. I took one off-road. I had Scott Talon, the head of Jeep marketing, riding shotgun with me, which
Hmm.
slightly intimidating having a high-ranking official in the vehicle with you. And right behind me was Matt driving the 392 Rubicon version of it, and hearing him roar to life back behind me. So yeah, Jeep knows their fan base very well. A purely
Hmm.
electric Jeep right off the bat would not have flown, but easing their fan base in and then, giving us what we really want was a 392 powered beast of a Rubicon. Yeah, that they did it right. They know their customers, and I applaud them for it. And I'm
Hmm.
actually connected with the head of the largest 4xe group online in Jeep 4xe fans. He was the first recipient ever of a consumer Wrangler 4xe, and we've got an
Oh,
episode.
really?
We've got an episode with him. I'll link it down in the show notes for anyone who wants to listen who hadn't heard yet. But it's Chris Hall. Like I said, he's leader of the Jeep 4xe fan page on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Yeah, I think he's all those places. And to your point about if they had just dropped a purely electric, it would not have gone over well because there's quite a bit of chatter within the group of old time Jeepers, air quotes for those who can't see me, old time Jeepers who talk down to them for the electric powertrain and stuff like that. So they're still in transition period, but I think Jeep
Hmm.
is absolutely going about it in all the right ways.
Oh, I agree.
What has been even more interesting to me is I'm hearing rumors, and since I've heard these rumors, I've been kind of particular to listen to the language that Mary Barra uses when she's talking about GM's electrified future. And they initially said 2035 carbon neutral, all that good stuff for their light duty. Now they've kind of wavered on it. They're kind of backpedaling a little, but I think, I feel, I hope that the way she's phrasing things now, that she's leaving the door open for a plug-in hybrid system in their vehicles. I haven't said it, heard them say it. I haven't uh, seen anything official, but I'm hoping that perhaps that they haven't just completely skipped over
Yes.
that step, especially.
Yes. I mean, I haven't heard any or seen anything myself in regards to that, but I mean, those recent remarks that she said, I mean, few people realize that it also kind of represented a little bit of a swerve in terms of what she has been saying, especially in regards to Tesla and some of those plans. Because if you remember, she wouldn't ever really directly address, anything with Elon, anything with Tesla. But when she made that CBC Mornings appearance, she just said straight up, we want to lead. We want to
Mhm.
be the leader in EVs. So you look at that, and they're acknowledging Tesla now, and they really want to be Tesla.
Yeah. Which, talk about interesting steps and paths to an end goal. What was really crazy with CES in Las Vegas, Consumer Electronics Show, or whatever the S stands for, I think it's show, doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Chevy had the keynote there, and they unveiled the 2023, I believe, Silverado EV, or
Yep.
was it the 24? Doesn't matter because
Yeah.
they teased two vehicles that are actually going to be available before the Silverado will be available to customers. Yet we know nothing on those yet, and that's very interesting and very telling that they see pickup trucks are very profitable for them.
Mhm.
They're able to get those bigger batteries and those longer range numbers in a big platform like that. And, they get that kind of Tesla like buzz around them because Tesla
Mhm.
doesn't have a pickup truck right now. We're still
Yeah.
waiting on Cybertruck, rumors going on about is it actually going to happen, stuff like that. But, it's got the quick acceleration, it's got all the sexy, fun EV type numbers to it. And then
Mhm.
she's like, oh, by the way, there will be an Equinox, which I think looks amazing. That looks
It looks stunning.
so much better than the gas version. And they
Yes.
teased a Blazer, and I'm like, show me this Blazer. Is it going to be true to Blazer's past, or is it going to be an electrified version of Blazer's current? So, me, the vehicle nanny, I'm sure the entire automotive world are waiting with bated breath to see that Blazer
Yes.
EV.
Yes. I mean, that's the thing I was wondering too, because I was listening to that very same keynote, and it made me wonder, what does this Blazer look like? Because I'm sure you've seen it. And when the current Blazer came out, there were people that were saying, "This isn't the Blazer of old. What are you making here?"
This is a
So
travesty,
yeah,
sacrilege. Yeah,
the old Blazers were big 4-wheel drive things, and here we are with
car.
a crossover, an overpriced one at that. So it makes me wonder what this EV Blazer will be. Will it channel some of that retro fire that made the 70s and the 80s Blazers popular? Or could it be, an all-out bid on futurism? It certainly got me wondering.
I've got it on good authority, and that's all I can really say. But that basically, General Motors was committed to using the Blazer name on the current Blazer, and when the firestorm of Ford Bronco really just hit a momentous crescendo. There we go. There's a good word for you.
Mhm.
Uh, and all the hype and hoopla around that Mary Barra was furious that they wasted the Blazer name on this crossover, seeing everything and all the praise that was heaped upon Bronco and what they were able to do there. So that leads me to believe, okay, we have a fresh slate. If that story is true, please, please give us what we really want.
Mhm. For
do it,
sure, I
do it
100%
right.
agree.
Well, Carl, as much as I would love to keep talking EVs, I want to dig in just a little bit more to your psyche and what makes you tick. We have a segment here that we call Random Misfire,
Okay.
where I will ask you, I've got 8 questions. I've got a long list of many others. I've already stolen from one, so I'm going to go ahead and check it off to make sure I truly get 8 questions out of you. They're
Mhm.
fun questions. They're yes or no. They're this or that. No pressure whatsoever. We can elaborate and expound upon them as much as needed. But
Mhm.
just kind of get to know you as a person a little bit better. Get to know you as a gearhead a little bit better. And
Mhm.
the first one I ask all my guests on the show: do you name your vehicles?
No. I mean, I've had friends that name them, but for me, I do not really name them at all. The only time I did this one time was when I had my first car, and it was getting old and it was starting to have problems. So my brother actually came up with this. He started calling it the Malibro, and that's really the only time where I've had any form of name for a car. I mean, everything else just been like, oh, the Buick,
Yeah.
oh, the Jeep, that kind of thing.
So I have to pivot a little bit, going back to my last episode with the vehicle nanny, talking about car names, while asking this question: are you where are you on the spectrum of reviving old names we'll take the Blazer. Obviously, you and I are both anti current Blazer. Like
Hmm.
name it anything else but that. But what are your thoughts on maybe proper rebirths like the Bronco or I'm trying to think of another good one, the T-Bird from a couple decades ago.
Yes, I mean, for me, as far as the subject of reviving an old nameplate, I'm always for that. I mean, I've always believed that there's always a good opportunity for, say, a retired nameplate to come back. But the main rule that I have, at least for me, it has to be done right. It can't just be slapped on just because you want the money or because you're going purely on the name. It has to be done right. If you're going to use something like, say, Blazer, for example, since we've been talking
Right.
about that today, it has to be done right. You have to have some of that distinct DNA, some of that distinct capability, and even some of the distinct feel that the nameplate, projects. You know, so if you can do it right, then I'm all for an old nameplate coming back.
So I've backed you into a corner here purposefully. I What are your thoughts on the 2022 North American Truck of the Year, the Ford Maverick? Because that is a revived name that the current vehicle doesn't even remotely resemble what Ford previously had it on, which was a car.
Yes, I mean, it's certainly a unique case with that one, considering the prior history of Maverick as a whole. But in this instance, I'd say that the Maverick name on that truck, it actually suits it in a way. Because, I mean, if you look at what Maverick's supposed to be, it's supposed to target those city buyers, those
Right.
do it yourself buyers, especially ones, that would be more than happy to craft, solutions or create solutions in the bed. I mean, if you look at the Maverick name in that regard, it really embodies the confidence and some of the vigor that that truck is trying to project onto the market, especially at its price.
Yeah. And so, we spent a week with one, and it was a sad day to watch that one drive off because you mentioned it. It was the price. It started with the price. It was so well priced and fit so many different lifestyles so well because it's based on the Escape platform, which is a two-row
Hmm.
crossover. Uh, it also shares with the Bronco Sport two-row crossover. But in both of those vehicles, you're hampered on what you can carry with you. Whereas with the Maverick, you've got the big bed behind you where 1,500-pound payload, you're essentially the sky is the limit for a normal
Oh
city
yeah,
dweller person. So,
and, and then the flexibility too, the flexibility to be able to put 2x4s in the indentations on the bed walls, the ability to scan a QR code to get a tip, for shipping if you're in a bind. Those are the features that really stuck out to me on that truck.
yeah, it's fun little rig that, like I said, sad to see it go. See, I told you we'd branch off a little bit here. All right. Uh, Question numero dos. New cars or classic cars?
Mm. I'm more towards the new car side of it. I mean,
Okay.
I've always been a very budget oriented person, and for me, I would need something, that I can maintain, and keep running in reasonable order on a budget. So, for me, even though I like seeing classic cars at the car shows and on Woodward Dream Cruise, don't get me wrong, they look cool. But if I had to choose which side of the fence I would go as far as like every day, it would have to definitely be a newer car.
Well, I'm jealous you're so close to Woodward Avenue and get to see the Dream Cruise. That's on my bucket list one day is uh, to cruise down Woodward Avenue and to see the Dream Cruise and yeah, just all the things.
Yes, it's really an extravaganza in itself. Just make sure you get there early to find parking. Parking over there is a nightmare,
I, I,
a
c-
legit nightmare.
I could imagine. Yeah, you just get that many vehicles together for any sort of reason whatsoever, and yeah,
Yes, that's why I actually recommend Gratiot Cruise for people that are visiting our state for the first time. It's a smaller cruise that's over on Gratiot Avenue,
okay,
and it goes through East Point, Roseville, and several other cities. the parking for that one is easier. And I remember when I was a kid, we'd actually have squeeze in Gratiot cruise with seeing my grandparents at the time. They lived in a house a little bit down the road from Gratiot, so we'd park the car in their driveway, go see the cruise for about an hour, then come back and spend some time with Oma and Opa eating dinner. It was a wonderful time.
Nice. Interesting. Nice travel tip. I will file that one away. Thank you. All right. Here lately, we have seen just the grayscale, the monotonization of the vehicle landscape. And every once in a while, a vehicle will come along that bucks the trend and says, no, I want color. Ford is doing it. They've got, oh gosh, I'm blanking. Cyber Orange is one of them.
Yep.
Velocity Blue. What is that new?
Rapid Red.
Rapid Red. Grabber Blue is another one. Even little tiny cars like the new Chevy Trailblazer has that bright, loud teal, blue, green color. What are
Hmm.
your thoughts? Do you lean more grayscale because it's easy and convenient, or do you want color?
Uh, I I used to be grayscale, but I actually had a Rolls Royce Cullinan Black Badge for a loan a while back,
Just
and that
casually dropping that in there.
yeah, yes, but that really helped push me to the colored side of it because they have a color called Galileo Blue on that thing, and it certainly pops in certain lighting. In sunlight, it looked exquisite,
Right.
and it drew attention too. So I'll give that model credit for really pushing my mindset towards the colorful, stylish side of it versus just a simple, convenient grayscale of it.
Well, we had a press Cullinan. I unfortunately I did not get to have it for a week like most press vehicles. It was at an event, but it was
Hmm.
the purple and silver one, and purple's a fun color. I would, unless it's like a Hellcat Challenger or something. I'm probably not buying a purple vehicle, but it was just right for this
Hmm.
Cullinan because it's a big stately vehicle that just it's a little bit of excess, and that purple color it fit that excess mind style.
Yes, as long as the color is not overdone. I mean, I'm sorry, but British Racing Green is the most overdone green ever. As long as it's not overdone like that. I worked at a Jaguar dealer for a number of years before I went into the press, and you had that first mystique of, oh wow, this car's in British Racing Green. Then you saw it on like other
Right.
cars that are not Jags. It's like, really?
It takes away
There
the
goes the mystique
specialness.
of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. All right, let's see. Question number 4. This will be a good one. To you, in what you do, what you've driven, what you see coming down the pike, what would you say is the most exciting car? The question says on the market today, but that has been officially unveiled. So this could be something as late as a 2024 model that we know is coming.
Mhm. That is a really tough one. For me, I would actually throw a bone to Nissan and say the new Z car. I mean,
Yes.
considering how long the 370 was around, that the way they executed that Z, it's definitely on my want to drive list for 2022 and maybe 2023. I mean, the styling they finally got that
Yeah,
right. The
absolutely.
interior is just that perfect mixture of old and new. And then that new V6 too. That
Yes.
certainly got my attention.
Nissan is on a tear right now because we got to sample as Texas Auto Riders the new Frontier up against its main competition in the Toyota Tacoma and TRD Pro Trim, and
Mhm.
there was also a Jeep Gladiator there, and it actually walked away from that event as the 2022 midsize pickup truck of Texas.
Mhm.
I was absolutely blown away. I understand that it is they took the platform, the old 16-year-old platform. They made some
Mhm.
modifications and tweaks. It's not all new. It's not 100% new from the ground up, but then they put a new body on it, new technology in it, and just the playful character of that truck, the inexpensive nature of it, it undercuts the TRD Pro by $4,000, and like slam dunk. I think for not only
Yes.
winning that award, but definitely if you are in the midsize truck segment, if you're shopping, go check out the Frontier. It is that good.
Yes, because I mean the beauty of the Frontier, especially the brand new one, it's like you said, it is a mixture of old and new, but it's new in all the right
Mm.
places. I mean, you get a new infotainment system that it really needed for 16
Yes.
years. You get exterior styling that doesn't make it look like it's a time warp from 2005. It's new in all the right areas, and then you factor in some of the capability that you get in that Frontier too. Pretty potent formula.
Yeah. And so Nissan took what they did with the Frontier there, they applied it to Pathfinder, essentially same thing, oldish bones, and
Hmm.
update all the things that matter and keep the price down. And then they went and, to your point, did it to the Z. So oldish bones, it's essentially the same platform but modified
Right.
all the things that matter. And I actually had a video from the Houston Auto Show where the product specialist misspoke and said that the price was going to start at 30,000. I questioned her on it and she said yes, 30,000. That video blew up for me because everybody's like, "Well, this is the steal of the decade."
Hmm.
And it would be at 30 grand because you're getting a 400 horsepower twin turbo V6, making
Hmm.
350 pound-feet of torque, and a
Rear wheel
six-speed
drive.
manual with rear-wheel drive, like all the right things. Like would obliterate the Subaru BRZ and the Toyota GR86, which have 228 horsepower at that same price point. Well, Nissan weighed in and they said, sorry, she misspoke. It's going to be, quote, around 40 grand. And I'm like, even still, that's a one heck of a bargain that is worth
Yeah,
checking
it's
out.
not bad.
So,
It's
yeah,
not bad.
Nissan is on a tear. They have figured out the right way to weigh cost savings and reinventing themselves because their
Hmm.
platforms are good enough to carry them. They just needed to update the things that matter. And I'm looking forward to the future of Nissan and what they can do
Same here.
when they've got a little more money in the bank and have worked their way out of kind of this hole they allowed themselves into.
Hmm.
So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you prefer off-road driving or on-road driving?
That's an easy one. I strongly prefer on-road driving. I mean, I wasn't really exposed to a lot of things on the off-road side of it, but I was exposed to a lot of things on the on-road side of it. I've done autocrossing, I've done some track days,
Okay.
and I've always just felt more comfortable on road than I ever would be off road. I mean, would I go off road if I really have to? Sure, but if people were to look for me, they usually find me on the pavement, at a track day or something like that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, track days are so much fun. So yes, I cannot discount that. All right, you had mentioned a little bit of this earlier, so I'm going to lean into this one. Do you prefer two wheels or four?
That's a tough one. I mean, I'm a neutral in that regard. I mean, I like four wheels, for everyday use, but at the same time, I've grown to respect and love two-wheel driving too. I actually fell in love with Zero motorcycles. That's the brand of motorcycle I'm going to get
Okay.
in a few months here, and I going into it, I thought, okay, I'm going to have such a hard time balancing on two wheels, blah blah blah. It was easy,
Yeah.
easy as can be, and I think it just helped create that neutral feeling I have in me, where it's like I love four wheels, but if I want to, I can just as easily hop on a two-wheel bike or motorcycle and just be comfortable with that too.
Yeah. I am not a motorcycle guy, but I could just imagine the freedom that you feel being out on two wheels, not surrounded by a cage or box or whatever you want to call the cabin of a vehicle. Especially, I told you I had the Bronco delivered today. The first thing we did was take the top of the doors off, and it's a different feeling being out and exposed, and it's kind of cool. So I see
Yes,
the appeal.
even on an electric bicycle, because I'm actually getting some free practice in on an electric bicycle that I happen
Okay.
to have. You do feel that freedom, when you turn the throttle and you go down the sidewalk or the road on pure EV. It's pretty interesting feeling.
Yep. Yep. All right. Let's see here. All right. We've talked about road trips, so what would be your favorite road trip snack?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I've actually gone on some road trips reviewing some of these cars. So I'd say the favorite road trip snack that I ever had was a big plate of cheese fries, and I had it over at the lumber. I think it's called the Lumberjack. It's a little further up north in Michigan, right by the Gaylord area, I believe.
Okay.
And those cheese fries, and you mix it with the burger they had there. That was really good. And then second place, and sadly the restaurant is no longer around anymore. It was called Bev's Cold Keg over in Swanton, and I always loved an opportunity to get some frog legs over there. They had really good frog legs when they were
All right. Uh, Very interesting. I have not had frog legs on my list yet, so that's a good one.
open.
All right. Last but not least, favorite driving. This says song, but we could do song, playlist, genre of music. What do you listen to if you just got to get out and drive?
Oh man, the one time where I don't have my wife with me on this because my wife is a very musical and music oriented person. But if I had to choose some of my songs, I would actually go for like classic rock, classic metal. I'm a big fan of the band Missouri.
Okay.
Um, I know they're not quite as big of a band as Kansas, but you go on YouTube and look up some of their songs, especially "Moving On" by Missouri. I highly recommend listening to them.
All
Songs
right.
like that, would be definitely what I would listen to.
All right. Well, you fared quite well with Random Misfire. Carl, thank you so much for joining me this week for just kind of shooting the breeze. It felt like we got stuck talking about EVs, but that's right in your wheelhouse. So
Yes,
uh, I don't think you mind it too much. I hope my audience doesn't mind it too much. It was a blast.
yes, and
Remind our listeners where they can find you once more.
yes. First off, thank you for having me on the show today. I mean, it was a blast talking with you, and hopefully, I can come back and we can have more conversations in the future. But for people that are looking for my work, you can find me over on carrevsdaily.com and torquenews.com, and then I'm active on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. My Twitter handle is Carl Malik 3. I had to put the number in there because, believe it or not, there are a lot of Carl Maliks on
Interesting.
Twitter. It's crazy. And then Instagram, it's just Carl Malik, all one word, one name. And then Facebook, you can also find me by my name as well.
All right. And we'll be sure to link all that down in the show notes down below. So if you are in the habit of checking our show notes, we'll link you to all of Carl's outlets and his Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff down below. Carl, thank you so much, and looking forward to possibly meeting you in a week when you and I are in Chicago.
Likewise, and same here.
Well, there you go. Another season in the books. 2 full years of the GT Garage Talk podcast. I thank you for listening. I thank you for coming back each and every week. And if you're new here, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button on whatever platform you are on, because we have a new interview with someone from across the automotive industry each and every Friday. That is when our episodes drop. If you haven't found us on YouTube yet for our car reviews, go find us at youtube.com/GTGarageTalk. All kinds of fun stuff coming out from us. We've got content from the Chicago Auto Show. Carl and I talked about that a little bit this episode. So there's just so much going on. It's an exciting time to be in the automotive industry and to be interested in vehicles, especially, if you like vehicles with a plug. But, we won't get too much into that because we're closing out. As always, you know where to find us. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, all at GT Garage Talk, and everything we do is at gtgaragetalk.com. Until next time, bye.